So I think we should have a conversation about how the left-wing media is covering Keir Starmer. I find it quite fascinating. We recently saw him under Laura Kuenssberg, but even in previous sort of weeks, he's been doing more media gigs, talking about how Labour's going to handle the economy, the importance of being sensible about the country's purses, so on and so forth. And I keep seeing him being slated in sort of left-wing press, you know, just sort of, he's a liar. I read one thumbnail say, and I thought to myself, I get it, they're holding him to account. However, to what degree are these left-wing outlets actually contributing to the hesitancy the country feels about voting for Keir Starmer? And who do they think is going to come in and save them in the next general election? It's either going to be the Conservatives or Labour, Keir Starmer or Rishi Sunak. And it seems as though the left-wing sort of press more generally, so the Navarra media, the kind of Owen Jones, if you call him press, and stuff like that, that whole kind of large swath of that kind of group seem to not realise that they might actually stop or prevent Keir Starmer from actually being elected. What are your thoughts on this?
I guess I don't actually think that these news outlets are like adding to their hindrances and doubts that the public feel. At the end of the day, it comes down to accountability again. What they're simply doing is holding Keir to account and calling him out on all the promises that he's gone back on, the same way the public are. And essentially what these news outlets are doing, they are representing the views of the public, and they are literally doing what the public would want them to do in terms of holding Keir to account. So I really think it's good. Yeah,
no, I hear you. And obviously that's the job of the media writ large, is to hold politicians, folks who have power to account. So I don't discount that at all. I guess my larger point is, we always describe the Conservatives as this sort of electoral machine. They're very, very good at winning elections. In fact, the Conservative Party is the most successful electoral party in the whole of Europe. They're very, very good. Over the last 100 years, they've won more elections than we can think about. And so you ask yourself, why are they so good? They're good because typically, when it comes to elections, they put aside their bickering and infighting, and they sing from the same hymn sheet. They're also good because the right-wing media, which unfortunately kind of makes up most of our media landscape, is quite good at, supporting the would-be sort of prime minister. Not talking about their foibles, kind of exacerbating and accentuating their sort of good parts, because they know that if we do that, we make it more likely. Now, part of me wonders if there's something the left can learn from the right, in that when it comes to elections, you need your guy to be in office. Ideas are great, but the worst thing to be is in opposition, where your ideas are just there to be debated. And case in point, Jeremy Corbyn, when he lost and was handed the biggest defeat we've seen since the 1970s. And what he said was, well, we won the argument. And you go, arguments don't change lives. Arguments don't mean money is unlocked for people that have for child benefits or lifting people. Arguments don't lift people out of poverty. You've got to be in power to be able to do it. So a part of me wonders if a lot of the left-wing media understand that we actually need this guy in power.
It's true, but I would have to question, do you want the left-wing media to learn false advertising in that sense? Because you say
all of politics is false advertising.
I said it, false advertising, because what you're saying is that the right-wing media are very good at presenting a united front, something that they paint their politicians like spotless. And I do question whether that's false advertising, because politics, we know that there's rough edges to politics and political figures. So to paint them as something they're not, essentially, is diminishing their light, because there's good sides and bad sides which create a political figure. And I feel like, again, owing a duty to the public is to show a political figure in the bad light and also in their good light as well.
But this is the thing, though, because you say that, but when I look at the left-wing coverage of Jeremy Corbyn, I never saw Jeremy Corbyn's bad light. When I think about how they've treated Jeremy Corbyn, honestly, I don't see his bad side or his rough edges. They glamorized Jeremy Corbyn, even when some of his ideas weren't fully costed, when it seemed like, they still said he's this great figure because he agreed with a lot of them, what a lot of them agree on. And here's, I think, is the bottom line. A lot of them are campaigning media. They have their own agenda. And so when they find a politician that is that, great. But the problem, I think the crucial problem with Keir Starmer for a lot of these left-wing outlets is they don't think he's left-wing enough. When it's time to be news, they find it difficult because the truth is they don't think he's the right candidate. They don't think he's left-wing enough. And that for me is where we get into a problem, because when I say contributing to hesitancy, people are still sort of hesitant about Keir Starmer because I don't know what he believes, so on and so forth. What you need is folks on his side, who are the minority, by the way, because we have a right-wing press in the UK, at least accentuating these good features, which they're not doing.
What I would say is that, do these press outlets have an outdated view of politics? Essentially, yes, Keir Starmer isn't as left as some would like him to be, but if we look at the political spectrum right now, what parties are advised to do is to appeal to the median voter. There's a lot of people who are centrists, essentially, who they're not really a hardcore Tory, neither do they swing to the left like that. So essentially some could view Keir Starmer's viewpoints and the way he conducts himself as a positive thing, because what he is doing is appealing to the median voter, and that's what makes up the political spectrum at the moment. And
maybe the fear, I think, or maybe the sort of risk that some of these left-wing outlets are running is they think Keir Starmer's already won. And so they don't realise that what you say before actually matters. I study and I'm super fascinated by election polls and sort of even opinion polls. And yes, it can look one way, but we all know it only matters really on that day. This is a two-horse race. But we'll be watching closely and we'll see what happens.
100%.